Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics. I'm going to do something a little different today. Well, I'm still going to talk about comic books, so maybe it won't be that different. 1986, Crisis on Infinite Earths has happened. We have had many long-running series has stopped. Action Comics has stopped. Superman has stopped at issue 423. Action stopped at 583. Wonder Woman stopped at 329. Justice League stopped. No more Justice League Detroit. Whole bunch of other things. Only the Batman is carrying on. So what's going on? They're rebooting the DC universe. And the reboot includes their iconic #1 character, Superman. Before the Crisis, Superman, there were lots of Kryptonian things. There were the Kryptonian mythos was all over the place. You had Jor-El, you had Supergirl, you had Krypto, the super dog, 800 types of kryptonite. You had Argo City, the Phantom Zone, everything. It seemed like Krypton didn't really disappear other than the death of like 7 billion people. Krypton itself didn't disappear because a piece of this was here. Every second Superboy issue, he was finding another thing, another Kryptonian thing, whether it was a robot teacher or a Daxamite who happened to be visit his dad before. Basically, there were unlimited things. DC had decided no more. Superman was the last and only Kryptonian thing left. John Byrne was brought in to take care of this, and he was told, under no circumstances, do anything else. Superman's it. He's the last son of Krypton. So, with the Action Comics and DC Comics Presents shut down, and Superman shut down, Action and Superman would come back under a brand new Superman title, and the old Superman would pick up with the same numbering called Adventures of Superman. So there were 3 Superman titles for a little while, which were replaced the other 3 that were going. DC Comics Presents as a team-up title was no longer taken. Action briefly became the team-up title when they first came back, but that's another. That is a subject for another video. What I want to talk about today is the Man of Steel miniseries that reset Superman and started off a new story. Now, when I said they would shut down the books, they went on a 2-month hiatus in order to cleanse the palette so that there wasn't other stories that were taking place at the same time as this one. They wanted to make sure that the Man of Steel had everybody's undivided attention. They came out weekly for a 6-week period in the summer of 1986. Also, the Man of Steel 1 was the first time DC used variant covers in their history, on purpose anyway, as opposed to the regular newsprint / Canadian price variant / type of variants. This was the first time that the cover was actually different. I have the variant cover. I do not have the original cover. The original cover shows Superman going like this a little bit with the rocket from Krypton in the back. I have the other one, which I'm going to show shortly. So basically, as I said, as a background, DC had ended everything and they were ready to move on. So they began with issue 1. In this issue, Clark is 18 years old. He's finishing high school. He's like the football star. He just led Smallville to the championship, okay? And keeping in mind that he wasn't as strong at 18 as he was further in his adulthood, because he was steadily growing. He was like a regular child when he was young, but as he continued to grow and get exposed to the yellow sun, he got more and more powerful. This was also covered in Smallville. Like they use Smallville, the TV series, use this series as its background to get there. So this series, written and penciled by John Byrne and inked by the great late Dick Giordano, is probably one of the best series the DC's ever put out. So again, Clark, and remember, he thinks himself as Clark Kent. He doesn't think of himself as Superman in this version of the character. He's grown up. He's 18. He's in high school. He realizes he's got all these powers and all these things. But the key of this book is the first half of the book shows the new origin of Krypton. Krypton looks more like the movie from the Superman movie than it did before, where Krypton was a happy-go-lucky fun place. This is very sterile and very crystal-like, like in the movie. And it has a completely different backstory towards how Kryptonians act towards each other and such. And that is outlined here in this book. So basically, this book ends, Clark decides to go to Metropolis. Okay? Which brings us to issue 2. In this issue, Clark is forced to, having been forced to rescue a plane while not in costume. He makes a costume. He goes home, makes a costume, comes back. Lois Lane, who is here now, we meet her, is determined as hell, like in Superman the movie, to get to know who the new Superman is. So she puts herself in a situation where she has to be rescued by Superman. And, cons him into an interview. They do the interview only for her to get back to the office to find out that she's been scooped by new reporter Clark Kent. So this is basically the introduction of Lois Lane to the new continuity. They weren't. They made her into a very strong, independent woman. And for 1986, that was really a big change. She was no longer obsessed with Superman. She was in the sense that I got to marry him, I got to do this. No, she was interested in him at first more as a professional curiosity, which, to be honest, was probably a nice change at the time. Bringing us to issue 3. This takes place about 8 months after Superman is first revealed to the world. Superman meets Batman. And unlike how it's always been throughout history, where they're best of friends and and they know each other and they do everything, there's a hostility when they meet, because Superman doesn't like Batman's methods of vigilantism and such. And if you can remember, now Batman is more of the secret, hidden, does he really exist type, where Superman, of course, is very open, and he is like a Boy Scout and all that other stuff, and he really does represent law and order. So, however, they have to work together to defeat a person called Magpie, who is a thief that's stealing stuff around Metropolis and Gotham. And Batman forces Superman to work with him by saying that if he doesn't, then there's a bomb that will kill somebody. Now, of course, in the end, it's revealed that that bomb was threatening Batman himself, because that's the kind of guy Batman is, always has been. But the fact is that he used that method to rub Superman a little bit the wrong way. And they don't part as friends, but there is a grudging respect. And in issue 4, we finally meet the evil man himself, Lex Luthor. Now, unlike other earlier incantations of Luthor, where Luthor was this genius scientist and all that stuff, they turned him into the 1980s evil man, the big businessman. Now, he's still smart, he's still intelligent, but he uses people and their skills more to get what he wants. Basically, in this one, Luthor doesn't like Superman because Luthor's used to being the big man around campus, and now that Superman's here, he's no longer Mr. I'm number one and everybody loves me. He arranges for terrorists to take over a boat where he's throwing a party to try and get Superman to come rescue because he wants to offer Superman a job as his lackey, so to speak. Superman says no. The mayor says, I can't believe you did this, deputizes Superman, and arrests Luthor. Well, needless to say, that doesn't go over well with Luthor, and a lifelong animosity, which is already starting to build, becomes deep, and the hatred for Luthor from Superman as well begins. I would say Lex Luthor is one of the few people you could honestly say that Clark doesn't like over the course of years and years and years. And even if you look at current comics where Luthor's trying to be better and all that stuff, Clark does never give up hope that Luthor will change. But the fact is, he still doesn't like him. Which brings us to issue 5. Issue 5, Luthor arranges to have somebody steal his weapon suit. And of course, like Superman isn't able to tie it back when he stops the guy from the rampage. But what Luthor did was he did this in order to test Superman to try and get a DNA sample and a reading of what it was in order to try and clone his own Superman. Now, this is the first time it's revealed Luthor discovers that he's an alien. And it's important to note that at this time in his life, Clark does not know that he's an alien. He doesn't know about Krypton. He doesn't know his origins. That is so. Luthor is one up on him by knowing that he's an alien. Well, needless to say, the attempt to clone a new Superman fails, and this misshapen, bizarre creature gets made, and tries to fight Superman, but after a while, it just falls to dust. The dust has this side effect of making Lois's sister Lucy, who's blind, have sight again. So even the destruction and the new thing of Bizarro still leads to some interesting scientific comic stuff that always, because comics, I like it. And so here we go. That's number 5, which leads us to the last one. This is Man of Steel 6. Now, Clark has gone back to visit his family in Smallville. His parents are having some weird dreams and stuff. They're not sleeping well. They're not doing ever. And we also learn, so Superman feels this when he comes home, and then he sees the image of his father, who suddenly hits him with a beam, and he now knows everything about Krypton. He knows where he's from. He knows what's going on. He knows the history of his planet and all that other stuff. So he finally knows everything about himself. But we also get an unknown side of this story. Lana has come to visit. We learn that 10 years ago, in the time of the first issue, Lana was fully expecting Clark to ask her to marry him. They had dated throughout all of high school. They were deeply in love, or at least she was deeply in love with him. And he reveals to her about his powers, and she knew he had to go, that she couldn't keep him. And she has been very bitter and upset for 10 years. And this is pretty much the first time that Clark has seen her since. The whole series is supposed to span over 10 years. You've got the beginning there with Clark at 18, and he's supposed to be 28 in this issue. But that is what they've done. That is what John Byrne wrote to be the new Superman. This is the line. Here's where we start from, and it was great. I have to admit, reading it, I've read this probably 15 times over the years. And every time I read it, I just think, wow, this is still good. This still holds up. It's a great story. And considering they used this as the beginning for Superman from 1986 on, because even when the Infinite Crisis and all that other stuff reset parts of the universe from before, they didn't change the origin back to before. There was still no Superboy era. There was no... Superboy Revenge Squad. No, Crypto did come along later, so did Supergirl. They did add some Kryptonian elements later after Infinite Crisis, which had reset some of the old things again. But that remains for another time. The fact is, as of 1986 and post-crisis, bang, button hit, reset the area. Anyway, I hope that everybody out there that hasn't read this finds a way to read it. Whether you like Superman or not, as a story, as a mythology setting thing, it is absolutely brilliant. To me, it's probably one of the best things John Byrne has ever done in one shot. Part of it is because he only had 6 issues to do it, but the thing is, he used this and continued, because he did continue to write and pencil some of Superman's regular books once this was done and they came back into circulation. He kept referring to this and kept using it. And one of the best things about this was that Ma and Pa Kent were alive, and they were still around, and became great supporting characters for Superman as they went on from there, as well as Lana once she got over herself. It took years still, but it got to a point where Lana became more and more part of the story, and it was good, because if Clark needs anything, he needs a best friend, and not a Jimmy Olsen 1960s "you're my pal, so I'm going to screw you over" kind of way. Anyway, if you like what I've done, please like, subscribe, comment below. Set your bell for notifications to let you know when I got new stuff. Generally speaking, I do 3 videos a week and 2 or 3 shorts, depending if there's a live show or not. And other than that, I try to find topics every day that I think you will find interesting, because I like to share good stories, and I like to share, I want everybody out there to, I hope they enjoy comics as much as I do, whether they're the ones I like or not, it doesn't matter. Anyway, my name's Matt, and I like comics, and I hope you do too.